How's it going, everybody? I hope you're well. Welcome back to Music with Michelle. Welcome to my first reaction to the brand new Hozier album, Unreal Unearth. I've been looking forward to this project for a while now, so I won't waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. But before we do that, I will be doing a tier list throughout this video as well. I'll explain that more when we get to it. And yeah, let's get straight into the first song. And the first song is called The Selby Part 1.
When all of the world is asleep, the lakes of the darkness so deep, a reflection can't offer a word, fills it with something or someone. Willisarna säker, och taget snösnö här. Willisarna säker, taget snösnö här. Trene kela, halleluja.
Okay, so that was the first song, The Selby Part 1, but as I mentioned at the start of the video, I will be doing a tier list throughout this reaction. And I'm sure you guys know how a tier list works, but in case you don't, pretty much the lower the tier means the less I like the song. So as you can see, the bottom tier we have Miss. The song goes in here, it means that I just flat out don't like the song. One above that is Not For Me. You know, sometimes a song is pretty good, but it's just not really for you. The middle tier is Re-Listen. You know, sometimes a song takes a couple of goes to, you know, really click with and understand if you really like it or not. One above that is straight into my playlist. Pretty simple, it just means that I really like the song. And then the top tier is called Talk, which is probably my favorite song from Hozier. This was very hard to pick my favorite because there's so many to choose from, but Talk is one of my favorite songs. But pretty much this top tier means that if any of these songs go into that tier, it means that I feel like it's on the level of some of Hozier's better or best songs. So yeah, I'm hoping there's a couple of them in this album. So yeah, that's pretty much the tier list. And going into the first song, The Selby Part 1, actually a really nice way to start an album. I mean, I don't know which way this album's going to go because he dropped the Eat Your Young EP a few months ago, which I did react to on this channel. Link in the description if you want to check that out. And it was kind of a mixed bag of songs really, so I wasn't too sure where this album's going to go. But this one definitely did sound something similar to his last album, Wasteland Baby. There's a few songs like this, like especially like Shrek. And I really do like these kinds of songs where it's just Hozier using his fantastic voice on like a really nice guitar melody. And what I love as well is the way that Hozier makes his music, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of it in this album, but the way he makes his music, you know, it's kind of like a mix between really old classic styles of music and then he brings some like more modern techniques into it, and it's a really interesting blend. I mean, we've seen it on like countless other songs by him, but when I listen to his music, it really does paint like a vivid picture of, you know, quite an old timely song but also brought into the modern age. And I think this first song really does sort of abide to that rule. But I thought it was a very beautiful song, and there is a part 2 to it. It's the next song, so we'll see if it fits the same sort of vibe. But for an opening track on an album, I'm a very big fan of it. Really did enjoy it, and it's going to go straight into my playlist. I really wouldn't mind seeing a few more songs like that on this project. And that leads us perfectly into song number 2, which is called The Selby Part 2. Now, I think this was released as a single before the album came out, and I tried to avoid listening to singles after the EP came out, so I haven't actually heard the majority of the singles that are on this one. So I haven't heard this song yet. It's brand new to me. I wanted to hear all of the singles in the context of the album whilst I was first listening to it. So yeah, I haven't checked it out yet, but this is song number 2, which is The Selby Part 2. As it's a part 2, I'm going to let the part 1 finish, and I'm sure it's going to transition into part 2, so...
What you're giving, what you live in, darling, it finds a way to live in you, and your heart, love, is such darkness, after gloom, with you, follows it closer, me.
Definitely not the same vibe as part 1. Okay, I really like that one. Yeah, completely different vibe to the part one. I thought it might be a continuation of the first one, but yeah, completely different. So I can imagine if you heard that single before the album came out, you probably think that the part one going into it would be something similar to that. But yeah, very different vibe. But at the same time, it transitioned into each other, which was very cool. And overall, it's a really nice upbeat song. I think that'll be a great sort of way to approach this album if we have a good combination of the part ones and the part twos. Like the part one being quite slow, melancholic, you know, what a lot of people know Hozier for its sort of deeper stuff. And then you have this one, which is just a lot more upbeat, a bit more dancey. And what I love the most really about this song is I'm like an absolute sucker for a bass, and I really love the bass in this one. Kind of sounded like an old school double bass, had like a really thick sound to it. And that was kind of the main crux of the song, and it kind of continued throughout. And yeah, the main instrument on there was the bass, and I absolutely love that because I think it flows so well. As I mentioned as well during the first one, there's a few sort of more modern instruments used in there as well. Kind of could hear some synthy noises in the background. But overall, just like a really kind of, you know, upbeat, borderline funky sort of song, and a really fun one to listen to as well. But I'm a big fan of that song, and I'm gonna put it right next to part one in straight to my playlist. So we're 2 songs in, part 1 and part 2 done. Fantastic start to the album, and let's get into song number 3. And that number 3 is First Time.
I told you about how before I heard it from your mouth.
There's that bass guitar again.
Soul, if that's what you call it, uneasy ally of the body. And the first time that you kissed me, I drank dry the river Lethe. But you spoke some quick new music. Some part of me must have died. The first time that you called me baby. Gifting life to you again. This life lived mostly underground. Sensing only now it's dying. Drying out and drowning blindly. Anyway, some part of me must have died. Each time that you call me baby. Whatever keeps you around. Come here. Some part of me must have died the final time you called me baby.
Another absolutely beautiful song, not only from a lyrical point of view, but from the actual music itself. I think I mentioned it in the Eat Your Young EP that I did, and I think I said that like the music kind of reminds me, at least in that EP, and this one kind of feels like it belongs in that EP. It reminds me of like a mid 2000s pop music that came out with, like, you know, when it was the likes of like James Morrison, Will Young. Like I remember that being in the charts when I was quite young, and I remember that quite vividly, and it kind of brings me back to that sort of space. Like, yeah, that mid 2000s poppy indie pop sound. It's really beautiful as well, not just from the actual instrumentation itself. I mentioned again the bass that came in was absolutely beautiful. Like I said, I'm a real sucker for bass, so like that gets me every time. But his voice and his vocals, the melodies, it's crazy. The notes that he's hitting, we all know that he's got a fantastic voice. He's done it in his last couple of albums, but you really don't get tired of hearing it. It's always so refreshing. And I think the thing about Hozier's music is that it's really addicting. Like, I always find myself going back to the same songs, listening to them over and over again. I don't really get sick of them. And I feel like this could be one of those songs because, yeah, it feels so addictive and you just want to replay it again. Yeah, absolutely beautiful song, and I think it deserves to go straight into my playlist as well with the other 3. I think that could definitely be one that pushes up as to being one of my favorites, but I think I have to listen to it a few more times. But off initial impressions, you know, that is a fantastic song, and I'm very eager to hear it again. But we are going to move on to song number 4, which is, I think, another song that was released as a single. Again, I haven't heard it, but this is number 4, Francesca.
Do you think I'd give up? But this might have shook the love from me. Darling, nights get so easily. Now that it's done, I tell him put me back in it. And I would do it again. And I'd go through it again. I would still be surprised they could find it, turning it any less. When the heart would
Okay, that's song number 4, Francesca, and once again, I'm a big fan of this one as well. This one was a lot more sort of guitar driven. This is probably the first song. We heard a bit in song 3. There's a bit of a guitar at the sort of start of it, but this is the proper first guitar driven one. We had the acoustic in the first one, but this is, you know, a bit more heavy guitar in this one. And I really like the guitar work, actually, really interesting. There's some really nice single chords being played in the background with some single notes, and then you had sort of like the hard hitting, almost like power chords in the chorus. Yeah, again, just another very addicting song, catchy. And although this one was like, I think 4.5 minutes long, it didn't feel like that, it didn't drag. And yeah, just another really solid song. Like so far, that's what the vibe I'm getting so far from the album is it's really solid, which we're kind of expecting now from Hozier's projects. And you probably noticed as well that during the reactions, I don't really say a lot or anything like that, because I feel like, especially Hozier's music, you kind of have to sort of let it, like, you kind of have to like embrace it, just listen to it and let it almost like take over you, because that's the kind of music that it is. It's really hard hitting. So yeah, I might not say too much during the actual reactions, but this was another one that is just very easy to listen to, sit back, relax, just nothing too crazy, but at the same time, it's not boring at all. Yeah, once again, I'm a big fan, and believe it or not, it's going to go straight into the second tier, straight into my playlist. And let's get on to song number 5, which is called I Carry On.
If the wind turns, if I hit a squall, allow the ground. I feel lighter than I have in so much time. I've crossed the borderline of weightless. One deep breath out from the sky. And though I burn, how could I fall? All at all, it's the world that falls away from me. You have me floating like a feather on the sea. I am skybound, but if we fall, I only pray, don't fall away from me. I carry on, allow the ground to find its brutal way to me. Don't fall away from me.
Wow. I mean, the same things that I said about the first song kind of apply here. You know, I spoke about how good these kind of slower Hozier songs really are. We've seen them do it a lot in the past, more recently with a song like Shrike and Swan Upon Leader. And yeah, it kind of fits for me personally in like a genre that I like, which I don't know if you call it like folky, indie, whatever you want to call it, but it's sort of like that Gregory Alan Isakov, Lord Huron, Bon Iver kind of space where you have these just really soft songs that are just so nice to listen to. Like the chord progressions are crazy, the melodies are amazing. It's just such a beautiful song. And the way you can control his voice during these songs, he can go up and down, it's absolutely beautiful. And once again, the lyricism is absolutely fantastic. All the things he's talking about, a very heartfelt song, and that definitely came through in terms of the instrumentations and the lyrics. I am very tempted to put it right at the top, but I'm not too sure. I feel like, again, it's going to be one of those ones similar to the second song where I feel like the more I listen to it, the more I'm going to like it. So I'm going to put it straight in my playlist for now. But I have a feeling that one could definitely push up. But once again, a fantastic start. Another song which I just really like. And at the moment, I've really got no complaints on the album. It's sounding great. In terms of song number 6 is Eat Your Young, which is just one of 2 songs that I've heard off this album. This was part of the EP that came out a few months ago. I'm not going to react to it and I won't speak about it too much because I've already put my opinions and my reaction on this channel. So if you do want to go check it out and see how I felt about the song, then you can go and check the link in the description. But yeah, overall, big fan of the song. I've been listening to it since it came out. And yeah, I still really like it. So there's no point wasting any more time. Straight into my playlist. I don't think it's one of Hozier's best songs, but it's definitely a very catchy song. I very much like it, and I can see by the statistics that it's very popular. I didn't realize it'd be that popular, but obviously was received very well by people. And yeah, I think a few months on, it's still sounding great. And let's move on to song number 7. And number 7 is a song called Damage Gets Done, with the only feature in this album by Brandy Carlisle. So let's see how this goes. Well, with that guitar part and the kind of 80s feel to this song already, it does kind of give me a little bit of like Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears vibes. Like, obviously a bit different, but it kind of has that similar sort of melody to it, and the guitar sounds a bit similar, like the intro guitar at least. Okay, that was a very interesting song. As I said during the reaction, like my first initial impression is that it really reminded me of Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, especially that opening guitar part. A bit slower than the actual song itself, but when that came in and then when you had the sort of synthy sounds in the background, which was a bit, it kind of reminded me of like an 80s sound. And it really did, the first thing that came to my head was that Tears for Fears song. So I think that was quite interesting. Maybe a bit of inspiration taken from there. But I will say though, like the whole time I was listening to it, I was trying to pinpoint what song it sounded like. So it really does sound like at least one other song, not just the Tears for Fears one, but at least another song which came out fairly recently. And that's kind of the gripe that I have with this one, is that it's a pretty good song, but for the most part, when I listen to Hozier's stuff, it always feels kind of unique and it feels like its own sort of entity. But this one definitely felt like something I've heard quite a few times before. Definitely felt a bit more commercial, a bit more poppy, which isn't a bad thing, you know, that's definitely some people's taste. Just it's not really my kind of taste, but I think Brandi Carlile sounded fantastic on here. The way them two work together, their voices match really well. But yeah, I think my main problem with the song is that it was a bit repetitive. It's quite a long song and I felt like it kind of repeated itself quite a few times. Didn't really go anywhere from the initial phase it started in. And then yeah, the other problem is just the fact that I feel like I've heard it before and it sounded like something I have heard previously, so that was kind of throwing me off a little bit. But overall, I thought it was a very good song despite all the things I just said, and I don't think I'd just straight up rule it out and say that it isn't a song that I'd like, because I think I might grow to like it. So I think for that reason I'll probably put it into re-listen, because I think I'll give it a few more goes. But yeah, my initial impression is that it's probably the weakest one on the album so far. Okay, let's move on to song number 8, which is called Who We Are.
You only feel it when it's lost. Getting through still has a cost. What I had left here, I just held it tight. It's told me like a knife, weapon at night. So much of our life, you and I burned out our steam. Be so much heavier, but so much less. But it sharpens like a knife, weapon at night. So much of our life, and the hardest part. Who we are, that's who we are.
Okay, that was number 8, Who We Are, and that is officially us in the middle of the album, song number 8. And yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't really the biggest fan of that one. I like the concept of it, and I like that we have like a piano-orientated song. And then once again, I can't fault anything from the production to the voice to the lyricism, it's all great. But I think for me, this one kind of had a lot of potential, but didn't really go anywhere that interesting. Kind of another one of those songs that is a bit of a forgetful in the middle of the album songs. And, you know, it might grow on me over time, but my initial impression is that it didn't really grab me in any way, didn't really interest me. I can appreciate it for what it is, but I think overall it just wasn't really for me. I don't think it's a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, like if I listened to the entire album, it's not like offensive, I wouldn't skip it or anything like that, but I think I would probably put it in not for me, just because it didn't really grab me in any way. It didn't really interest me that much. So I mean, it's taken 8 songs for there to be one in the not for me category, which I think is pretty good going, because you know, chances are you're not going to like every single song on the album. Yeah, 8 songs in, it's the first one that I'm not the biggest fan of. I could definitely see why people would like it, but for me, it's just not really for me. But yeah, let's see if we can pick up the pace a little bit more in song number 9, which is called Son of Nyx. This one already feels very atmospheric. Okay, so that was our first instrumental, and a bit of a weird place I think to put it in terms of placement of the album, because it's song number, was it song number 9, and this definitely felt like it could have been like a final song, like a really, that would have been like a beautiful last song on the album. So maybe this is like segueing into a different part of the album, like we're going to change the tone of it, or maybe it's just sort of a middle ground between the first part and the second part of the album. I mean, I'm not actually usually the biggest fan of instrumentals, because I kind of find them, unless you're like studying or concentrating, to listen, you know, leisurely, I kind of find it quite boring. But I like it in certain scenarios, but for the most part I tend to not really listen to instrumentals. But this one was actually very, very nice, fantastically well produced and orchestrated, great instruments in there. So usually I would put instrumentals in like a not for me or a miss, depends on how it is, but that was a beautiful piece of music, so it's definitely not a miss. I also probably wouldn't say that it isn't for me, because I actually quite enjoyed it. I could definitely see myself listening to it in certain scenarios, so I think for that reason I will put it into the re-listen tier. Okay, next up we have song number 10, which is called All Things End. I have already heard this one quite a few times now. It was part of the Eat Your Young EP that came out a few months ago. Once again, if you want to hear my reaction to this song, I will leave a link to it in the description. So yeah, I won't bother reacting to it once again, and I won't bother talking about it for too much, because if you want to see my initial impressions, you can go watch that video. I'm not actually too sure how I felt about the song at the time. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if I really liked it or whatever, but now I actually very, very much like it. So pretty easy. Again, it's going to go straight into my playlist, because it's been on rotation for ever since it came out pretty much. And yeah, let's go straight on to song number 11, which is called To Someone from a Warm Climate.
Joy hard learned in winter was the warming of the bed. You'd shake for minutes there and move your legs. Your breath heat the air until you'd feel it getting thin. The feel of coldness only water brings. And darling, all my dreaming is only put to shame. It's natural as another leg around you in the bed frame. You press your body to the concrete when you were smart. You're scouted, but darling, all my dreaming is natural as another leg around you in the bed. The crust is boiling over. Natural as another leg around you in the bed frame.
Okay, that one could be a contender for being one of my favorites on the album so far. I'd say it's probably like the third song on this album that kind of follows this technique of going for that really slow, more melancholic sort of vibe. And as I mentioned, that's kind of my favorite Hozier songs. Like, these kind of songs always just remind me of like Shrike, which is, I've mentioned it a few times now, it's one of my favorite Hozier songs, and if anything is comparable to that, then I'm gonna like it, because, you know, that is probably one of my most played Hozier songs. I just love these atmospheric songs. I'll say that the one thing I've noticed about this album so far is that not too many of the songs have been very atmospheric compared to something like Wasteland Baby, where I feel like there was proper atmosphere in most of the songs. This one lacks a little bit of that, but then in songs like this it really does come back and it's on full force. I love the simplicity of the song as well. Like, it was pretty much just a piano, it sounded like a double bass, like a really old school double bass, which kind of gave it like a bit of like a jazzy feel, and then it had this other sort of instrument in the background as well, almost like strings in the background. But the main focus of the song is Andrew's voice, and yeah, it's showcased fantastically on here. I mean, what can you say? What can you say that hasn't been said about his voice? I think everyone knows how good of a vocalist he is, and yeah, hitting a different note, yeah, just the arrangements in the songs and the chords, it's all so beautiful. And yeah, it's a tough one, because I can compare it to probably two other songs on this album, but I would probably go on a limb and say that it's probably my favorite I've heard so far. And because it did remind me so much of a song like Shriek or Swan Upon Leader, then I think I'm kind of inclined to put it right at the very top. You know, I'd probably say so far on the album, it's probably my favorite that I've heard. Really can't wait to listen to it again, get back into it, because that was so beautiful. And again, it was quite a long one, over 4 minutes long. But yeah, I mean, I had my head down pretty much for the whole song, because I was just taking it all in, and it kind of transported you different places. I absolutely love that kind of music. And yeah, I'd say it's probably my favorite that I've heard on this album so far. So yeah, some pretty big boots to fill now in the final 5 songs. And let's move on to song number 12, which is called Butchered Tongue. Okay, I'd be very happy if this album, towards the end of it, kind of follows the same pattern to the previous song. If it's a bit more slow, they've got more of a sort of deeper feel to them. I would absolutely love that. So yeah, I'm already liking this song. I hope it kind of stays on this sort of path.
To say Apalachicola or Hushpekina Lake Guibara. And as a young man blessed to pass so many road signs that few still understand, a butchered tongue still singing here above the ground. They are buried without scalp in the shattered bedrock of our home, till the distance has been shown between what is lost forever and what can still be known.
Seriously could listen to a whole album of just songs like that. And it seems as now we're in the second half of the album, it's very much taking this approach of going for the more slower songs, which I'm obviously a big fan of. And I've noticed that we're kind of seeing a lot more uses of pianos and things like that as well. These songs are so picturesque, they're so ethereal, and it really paint like a vivid picture in your head as well. I don't know, it's weird. The music kind of transports you a little bit, and again, it paints that vivid imagery of your head of like more older times, you know. I'm not actually too sure if any of that makes sense. I might not be explaining it in the best way, but all I'm trying to say is that these songs are very picturesque, and I suppose if a song is triggering some sort of memories or some sort of visuals in your head, it is a good sign that it's a fantastic song. And pretty much the same thing applies to the song before. I don't think it was as good as the song before. The same thing still applies, you know, the instrumentation, the arrangements, the chords, the melodies, the voice, all fantastic, beautiful lyrics as well. And Butchered Tongue, I'm not going to put it in the top one because again, I don't think it's as good as the one before it, but it's going to go straight to my playlist. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go on to song number 13, which is called Anything But.
Come here to me, I wish I was a mayfly on the river Tay. I'd fit all my joys and my pleasures in one perfect day. I wish I was the sunlight, just sitting on the Mississippi. I'd settle for a shopping trolley in the Liffey. I don't wanna be anything. I don't wanna be anything like this at all. Oh, look another way. Look another way. Look, I wanna be loud, so loud I talk and says me anything.
Okay, that was song 13, Anything But, and yeah, that one kind of took me out of it a little bit because the last few songs have been very different to this one. This one was a lot more happy, a lot more jolly, definitely a more upbeat song with some pretty funny lyrics in there as well. But yeah, overall, again, it didn't really grab me. I think because I'm now in this mode of like listening to the sort of slower stuff, the more sort of deeper meaning stuff, this kind of song just kind of takes me out of the album a little bit. And it's all about moods, right? A lot of the songs that I've said are really good, like the slow ones. You have to be in a certain mood to like to listen to it and enjoy it. Like if you're in a happy mood and you put that on, you're not gonna like it as much as if you're in a sad mood. But that song there, Anything But, if you're in a happy mood, you put that on, it's gonna sound good. So yeah, it's all about like the mood it creates. And I think the placement in the album's a bit strange, depends on where it goes from here, but put this after a few sort of slower ones. Yeah, maybe if it was a bit more higher up in the album, I might have enjoyed it a bit more. I'm not sure, but at the minute I'm kind of in this more melancholic sort of feel at the minute, so to have a song like this, it kind of took me out a little bit. So I think for that reason I'll probably put it in re-listen, because I feel like I need to listen to it stand alone without it in the context of the album. I did enjoy the song, it had some great parts in it, but I think just because of the ones before it, the previous songs, probably didn't enjoy it as much. But yeah, I'll give it another listen, see how I feel. But let's move on to song number 14. At number 14 we have Abstract, Psychopomp. I feel like we might be going back to the slower stuff again.
Sometimes it returns like rain that you slept through, that washed off the world, the streets looking brand new, and in my pocket to keep us both warm, the earth from a distance, see how it shines, see how it shines. abstract from a moment of my life.
Okay, that was a very grand song, very epic. Again, it makes the previous song anything but even weirder in the placement of the album, because again, this is very much similar to the ones we heard before it. So, but this one was a bit more hard hitting, like I said, very grand, very epic, very in your face. Felt more like a climactic song, really, like again, like a song at the end. So it's kind of a good thing that it's right at the end of this album. But yeah, again, the stuff that I've mentioned about the other songs on here that I really like, the same thing applies here. So I won't spend too much time on Abstract. It's going to go straight into my playlist. Okay, and that leaves us with 2 songs, and we have the penultimate song, which is called Unknown. Now, this one I'm very, very excited for. I've been looking forward to this song. If it is the song that I'm thinking of, I've been looking forward to this song for a long time. I'm not sure if Hozier himself uploaded it or if he did like a live stream, someone recorded it then posted it to YouTube, but I found this song from Hozier, I think it's about a year ago, and it was just called Unknown, and I thought that it was a song that was just unknown, so the person who uploaded it called it Unknown, but actually the title of the song is called Unknown. And I've been listening to this song honestly since last year. I've got this playlist on YouTube where it's like songs that aren't on Spotify, and sometimes I'll go on there and just press shuffle and all these songs come on. And this Hozier song I have been obsessed with for a very long time, and I was wondering if it was ever actually going to get released, or it was just one of those songs that is just sitting in the backlog of Hozier. He's probably got so many songs like that that he just hasn't released. And I vividly remember it being called Unknown, so I'm very much hoping that this song is that song that I've been listening to for a long time. Obviously, the version I listened to is probably quite old at this point, and in the actual song itself, it was just him and his guitar, so there's no other parts of it. So if this is the song, I'm sure there'll be loads of different elements that are added to it, and the production is going to be better, so it's still worth me listening to it. But I'm very excited. I'm very much hoping that this is the song that I'm thinking of. So this is song number 15, Unknown. Okay, here we go. I should recognize it from literally the first note. Yes. It is the one. Oh, I'm so relieved that it's finally been released. Absolutely love this song. Be interesting to see what changes have been made, but just even the guitar part itself is enough for me. Like, it sounds amazing.
You know the distance never made a difference to me.
What's also amazing is that like this sounds exactly like that video that was posted, and it was probably screen recorded and then posted again, so it loses that bit of quality, but he sounds exactly the same. The guitar tone sounds exactly the same. His voice sounds exactly the same. It just goes to show how good he is, you know, performing live, and it's just unbelievable.
Ignore the vastness between all that can be seen and all that we believe. If there were scarlet flags, they washed out in the mind of me. But you're held frozen like an angel to me. It ain't the being alone, you're alone. It ain't the empty home, baby. You know I'm good on my own. So much of the living love is the being unknown. Going unknown is that the angel to me. Do you know I could break beneath the weight that I'd walk so far just to take? It ain't the empty home, baby. So you know I'm good on my own.
Okay, I'm sure you all know where I'm going to put this song, so let's not mess about. It's going straight at the top. Not only do I think it's one of my favourite songs on the album, I don't know if I can class it as my favourite song of the year, because I've been listening to it for over a year, but in terms of songs that have been released this year, this probably is up there with one of my favourite songs that's come out in 2023. Unbelievable, and I'm so happy that it's finally come out, because I've been waiting a long time for it, and although listening to the sort of raw version of it that he'd done on that live stream a year ago, it's so much better now that it's actually here on streaming, and it's been produced properly, and the only real difference from the original is this second part of the song where more instruments come in, it gets a bit more grand, but for the most part the song is pretty much exactly the same, including the lyrics as well. Like I pretty much knew all the lyrics to the song just from listening to the, call it a demo or whatever you want to call it, the preview, And yeah, all that stayed the same. The first probably 3 minutes stayed the same. It was just the last part of the song, the latter stages, that changed. It's testament to how good that song is, I think, because I did hear that this album was meant to come out last year, but it kept getting delayed and delayed, delayed. For whatever reason, I'm not too sure, but it was expected to come out last year and got pushed all the way to August this year. So probably a lot of these songs went through a lot of changes, additions, you know, taking things out, but it feels like this song pretty much stayed the same throughout this whole year. So that's very impressive in itself. But yeah, I mean, we haven't had too many guitar orientated songs on this one. I mean, the last album, Wasteland Baby, was very sort of a bit more rocky, a lot of guitar stuff in there. This one, not as much. It's only been about 3 or 4 songs that have really heavily featured guitar, so really refreshing to hear a song like this. Adds great variety to the album. Overall, just an incredible piece of music. Like, it's so addictive, and I'm so happy that it's finally on streaming services, so I can listen to it offline. I ain't got to go onto YouTube and listen to it. Easily my favorite song on the album. Yeah, I suppose let's move on to the final song on the album. I'll be very surprised if it gets better from here, but who knows? It is Hozier. He's capable of doing it. And the final song on the album is called First Light.
One bright morning, easy as you're breathing, you wake, and I can scarce believe what I'm believing in. Every day begins, the sky sets a burn, gold in the rain, come, the sun coming out before the first light. I'm never going back again. The sky sets a burn.
Okay, so that was the final song, First Light, and I always say that I think ending an album is one of the hardest things to do. It's like the last impression that you have of that record, so it's quite important to end it on a positive note, and I definitely say this is one. And a fantastic way to close out what has been a very good album, because it kind of encapsulated all the different elements that we've seen from different parts of the songs and kind of mishmashed it into one main song here right at the end. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Great way to end the album. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I feel like I've talked for quite a lot in this video. So yeah, just overall really great song, great way to conclude it. And yeah, I'm gonna put it straight into my playlist. And there you go, there is my final stand-ins for Hozier's Unreal Unearth album. As you can see, there's no songs in the missed category, which I was kind of expecting. I mean, Hozier doesn't make like bad music, do you know what I mean? It is all this stuff, even if you don't particularly like it, it's still a good piece of music. One song in Not For Me, which is Who We Are. 3 songs in the re-listen category, which, you know, I will go back and listen to, but as I've said, in the context of the album, if I'm listening to it from start to finish, then I wouldn't skip it, because I still think they're good songs. I just need to give them another listen to see if I truly like it. 10 songs are in the straight into my playlist category, and this pretty much means that when I heard these songs, I instantly liked them. So that is a very good ratio. I usually say that if I like, you know, around 40% of the album, then I'll buy it on vinyl. As you can see, I like way more than 40%, you know, so I'll definitely be buying this one on vinyl. And then 2 songs that are in the very top tier, the talk tier. So these are 2 songs that I think are some of Hozier's best pieces of work. First one is To Someone From a Warm Climate, and second is the one I spoke about quite extensively, Unknown. I mean, it's definitely going to be on repeat for the rest of the year, but this is probably a contender for my favorite song of the year. So yeah, there's my final standards for my tier list. Let me know, do you agree, do you disagree with a lot of the placements on here? And also let me know if there's a song that you think is one of Hozier's best songs that features on this album, if there are any at all. Yeah, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so that's my first reaction to the brand new Hozier album, Unreal Earth. It's an album that I've been anticipating for quite a long time now. I'll probably say ever since Unknown came out last year on that video on YouTube, and I found out that Hozier is releasing a new project. I've been pretty much excited since then. So for it to finally come out, I'm very happy about, and I'd say it did not disappoint at all. I think for me personally, there's definitely like a segment of musicians that I know for a fact I'm going to go into a project knowing I'm going to like it. You know, Hozier is one of them, probably Nothing But Thieves, Lord Huron. These artists that are just proven time and time again they can just make these, you know, these like ethereal, these addictive, just catchy and memorable songs, and really they don't make any particularly bad songs. Like, obviously that's subjective, you can have your own opinions on that, but in my own opinion, although I still haven't listened to Hozier's debut album in full, I have listened to quite a few songs on there. Wasteland Baby, now this one, plus all of his singles and his features, and I don't think I've ever listened to a Hozier song and come out disappointed. It always has something in there for, if not for me, then for everybody, and you can't say that about a lot of artists, I don't think. I think it's very rare to find artists that kind of fit that caliber, and we've known about Hozier now for, I'd say about a decade now actually, and I think everyone now knows how good he is, from his voice to the music he makes, the production quality, the storytelling. I think everyone knows how good he is, and he's kind of getting more and more in the limelight now, which is great. I mean, his debut album was massive, and obviously Take Me to Church just sprung him into the limelight. And although he hasn't released anything since then that has kind of hit that benchmark, I think that's kind of a hard thing to do. It has like well over 1 billion streams on Spotify, so it's easily one of the biggest songs he'll probably ever produce. But I mean, not many artists get to have that 1 billion play song anyway, so to already have that is a massive achievement. But I saw him, you know, at Glastonbury and doing other festivals this year, so he's definitely getting more and more out there, and people are sort of discovering him more. He's becoming more of a household name, which is great, because people like this who have this like immense talent definitely deserve to be put in the limelight. And yeah, just going back to the album again, I don't think it disappointed at all. The one thing I would say about it, and if that's just me comparing it to his previous projects, is something I mentioned where I just didn't feel like it was as atmospheric as some of his other work. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be atmospheric, it's just a personal preference for me. I kind of enjoy the songs a bit more if they do have those elements into it. But overall, I think the project was absolutely fantastic. So many good songs on there, something for everybody really. It kind of blended loads of different genres. It was a bit of a throwback album as well, had sort of elements of early to mid 2000s pop, and then there's some 80s bits in there. Then you had the old school stuff as well with the double bass. So loads of different styles of music kind of mishmashed into one, and just so many. I think there's a few hits on here. I think there is a few hits on here. You've already got Eat Your Young, which is a massive song for him. I think there'll be a few others on here that reach that level as well. So I'm hoping this is a very successful album for him, because it's been quite a few years since Wasteland Baby. I want to say it's been 4 years. I think it came out in 2019. So it's been quite a few years since he last dropped a project. So there probably was some big expectations for him on this, but me personally, I think he smashed those expectations. One of my favorite albums of the year so far. Of course, I haven't heard every album, but this is one of my personal favorites. And I think the production quality as well definitely deserves a special mention, because it has been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, there's not really much else to say about it apart from fantastic vocals. The actual instrumentations were great, and overall just the songs are memorable, which is kind of what you want to ask for really from an album. You want to walk away from it and being like, oh, I want to listen to this one, this one, this one, this one again. And you know, right now I have that urge to go back and listen to quite a few of these songs, so that's obviously a good sign. But yeah, I'm interested to see how you guys think about it, so let me know in the comments below what you think of the album and what your favorite song is. As I mentioned, I haven't actually listened to his debut project all the way. I know a few songs on there, like From Eden, Somebody New, obviously Take Me to Church, Jackie and Wilson, but I haven't actually listened to the whole thing, so I will be doing a reaction to that on this channel very, very soon. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, plus I'll be doing tons of other music content, then please feel free to subscribe. I want to say a big thank you for watching if you made it up to this point. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice day.